Alright guys, it's cleanup time. Just from a few days ago, I found this little double pointed thing. It was on a material run, and I'd already hunted that section of the creek, so I wasn't really looking for artifacts, but apparently I missed one. Actually, I didn't just miss one, I missed several, but this is the one that I actually filmed. And then later on, as it got dark, I found these two real close to each other. There's a broken preform. It's pretty thin, but that's why it's broken. I guarantee when he was making it, he had the wrong finger in the wrong spot, and as soon as he struck it, snap. I've been doing a lot of that lately, and it is frustrating when that happens. Oh my god. And then here's another one I pulled out right near this one here. Just pulled out of the bank, and it's nothing spectacular, but it's a full artifact. It's a lot better than what I've been finding lately. Just really nothing. Then moving on to today, I decided to go on another material run. And there's a side creek that comes in, and that's well, like I said earlier in the video, it was a lot smaller at one point in time, but so much runoff goes into it now, it's just blown out. And that's what happens. That's what St. Louis is now. It's so many suburban areas are in there now, and all their runoff goes into those little creeks, and they just they just can't handle that much water at one time, so they get blown out. The banks get blown out. The clay pan gets blown out. You know, it's yeah, it makes things difficult to as far as getting artifacts goes. It's great though if you're a flint napper, because then you get those nodules exposed. Some of those rock faces, every once in a while you see chert veins in them. All the big pieces that fall out of those are now exposed. But yeah, I was really surprised to find this thing in there. At that point, I'd already stopped looking for artifacts. I was done. But every once in a while, something happens. It just goes to show you. You need to pay attention. So yeah, this is definitely a neat one. And then on the way back, I didn't film this one, but here's another piece I found in that same little side creek. I don't know exactly what this material is. It's very tough. I've brought some of it home before. I don't like working with it. It's extremely tough, actually. So, I don't know if it just needs to be cooked or what, but this guy apparently didn't get very far in it either. Okay, moving on. I mentioned earlier about putting on some of my knappings, my recent ones. Here's some of the ones you saw before in the video that had, that I showed that drill and the shell and all that. And I had mentioned I did these just hammerstone. Now, hammerstones are just meant to really get a biface started. They're not meant for, secondary thinning or final shaping or anything. They're not meant for that. They're meant for taking big mass off and then do the rest with antler. But I ended up making a copper bopper, which is actually, you've seen it, but it's this thing here. This thing's about done. I've had it for about 2 weeks, and this thing is just shot. But most of the ones you see are only going to be about 6 inches long or so. And you see these guys hold the handle up here. I find having the longer handle like this, it gives me more of the feel of like an antler or something like that. Just that weight, just a lot longer, and so I can do a lot harder strike with it with less motion, and it's a lot easier on my wrist. Because at 25, my joints are done. You know, I've been a wrestler for so many years, and my line of work right now, you know, is pretty hard on my joints, and I can't have added stress to that, and that really helps. Which, by the way, that shouldn't be happening now at my age, but it is. Anyway, so after switching to that billet, it made a big difference really fast, because this was one of the first ones I put out. I had another one that was pretty good too. It was about like this that I put out, but I ended up giving that one to my dad for Christmas. And he was happy with that. So yeah, that's I don't know if you'd call that like a Snyder Gibson type deal, or, but yeah. And then I'll skip that one for right now. This one was gonna be a Sedalia when I first started it. You know, it was a good sized piece of material. I had a real good start on it, but when I went down to final shape, you know, to get the finished flakes on it, one thing went wrong, and another thing went wrong, and another thing went wrong. And most of the things that went wrong had to do with that little spot right there. It just, you know, I ended up getting these hinges and stuff, and you end up losing more and more mass as you try and fix things. They say you never, if you mess something up, don't try and chase it, because you're just going to make it worse. Well, I chased it and made it a whole lot worse. But I still had enough material left where I didn't want to throw it out completely, so I just kind of kept messing with it until I got this thing. And then just a couple days ago, I cranked this Sedalia out, and I'm happy with this one. You know, there's a few flaws in it, but it looks like a genuine Sedalia, at least in my eye. That, and it's just it's a lot better than this one up here. You know, it's probably half as thick, and it's probably a good half-inch longer. And the flaking pattern's just a bit better, which I'm happy with that. Then, of course, moving on to these hammerstones here. Now, these are the two that I use, or was using. I still use this one when I really need to take some mass off. It's heavy. But whatever you're striking at, you know, the more you use a hammerstone, the flatter the end gets. And I've made some comments in other videos, you know, or guys will be digging and they come across these round stones. Well, you know, there happen to be like a lot of big flakes or something like that in that spot. Well, does that particular stone have a flat side on it? And this is what I'm talking about. This one down here is a better example. So whenever you're napping on rocks, you know, your contact point is going to get worn down. You're going to get these flat spots in there. And sometimes they even indent. But that's one of those things to look for. Now, if I hadn't known that, I would have never, I'd have walked right past this. I found this a couple summers ago. And was walking the creek and just happened to see that flat spot on the end of that rock. You know, you get some of the exposed pores in that particular type of stone. Now, I had another one that I was using that had a real flat spot in it, and it also had this kind of red spot in there. So this was pretty telltale. You know, this thing's pretty well weathered over, because those two they're pretty rough. But yeah, that was neat. And on to these. This is the closest to a cache of anything I've ever found. I went up a little side ditch, and to the point where it wasn't much more than just a ditch. There was some clay pan, and then there was some little jagged rock, you know, about quarter size, you know, most of it was like 1- type stuff. And then you come across these things. These things were right next to each other, kind of in a little basin in the clay pan. And yeah, the current pushed them into that little basin and then couldn't get them back out, so that's where they were. And then, of course, looking in that ditch, you know, you see these three stones and that jagged, rough-looking gravel in that clay pan. You know, those things had no business being there. So, and then this one was just a little further up. A piece of granite. I don't know where they got it, but it's a nice piece of granite. Really worn down. It's nice, and it does have a polish on it, but not as good as one of the ones I'm about to show you. Then this big one was right by it. Well, I shouldn't say like right by it. It was probably, I don't know, maybe another 15, maybe 20 feet past it, upstream of it. And again, it's one of those where you look at the rest of the rock and what's there. This thing has no business being in there. And then the next one up was probably about another 10 feet past that. Now this one does have polish, and I know this rock is not from there. The only other place I've seen this black material, or the real super dark brown, is more like coffee colored, if you like the dark roast stuff. But yeah, it's got a killer polish on it. The only other place I've seen this material is on the Merrimack River. In the last video I posted, you know, I was on a bar that I said was a new bar, and, you know, a big bar. And, you know, I panned the camera up and downstream. Well, that's the only other rock bar I've seen this material on. So I'm guessing that's where that came from. It's only about, I don't know, 4 miles away from here, you know, in a crow's flight, or however you say it. But anyway, that's it. Yeah, it's a great start to 2012. I can't wait to see what everyone gets this year. Happy hunting, and yeah. I'll see you guys later.